Brooke de Ocampo, Isis.
Oi, tudo
Suelen,
bem?
Suelen.
Oi.
Você é dona Magda?
Oi. Tudo bem? Tudo bem.
A Brooke tem um cargo super alto numa companhia de leilões, uma internacional. Então, o que a gente vai fazer? A gente vai fazer uma foto bem grande disso aqui e ela já concordou em levar para uma venda, um leilão internacional. Vai ter aquele cara com martelinho, tanto, pá! Suelen and her 2 kids. It all started by the feeling that we should do something that will convert back to them. We'll make, we're gonna do something that's made out of garbage and it will be sold for a lot of money and it will become something that they can put their hands on, that they can feel it's actually help them. And at the end, they're not gonna say, oh, Vik did it.
Right.
We did it.
Right.
Garbage is, by its nature, something we don't want to think about, which is why we throw it away, to get it out of sight and out of mind. Sadly, the same can be said of far too many people in the world, the poor and hopeless, whose existence we do our best to ignore every day as we go about our lives, who sometimes live in and off of what we discard, 2 symptoms of our disposable consumer culture. Both are the subjects of Lucy Walker's stunning, moving documentary Wasteland, which follows Brazilian artist Vik Muniz as he travels to Brazil's Jardim Gramacho, the world's largest dump, to see if he can create artwork made out of discarded materials gathered and assembled by the catadores, or pickers, who make their living salvaging recyclables from the hundreds of tons of garbage dumped there 24 hours a day, with the goal of testing his theory that art can change people's lives. Muniz, who lives in the US and is Brazil's most successful international artist, has become known for creating portraits made of materials integral to his subjects' lives. But going to Jardim Gramacho presented new challenges, including the chance of disease or being kidnapped or murdered by the drug trafficking gangs that infest the favelas, or slums, that surround the dump. But instead, what he found among the 3,000 to 5,000 pickers who live in the dump were people who are not only happy, but proud of the work they are doing, seeing it as an honorable alternative to drug dealing and prostitution. In addition, the pickers understand that by keeping over 200 tons of recyclables from entering the landfill every day, they're helping protect the environment for future generations. Muniz and his partner, Fabio Gavelder, begin taking portraits of some of the pickers, often posing them to replicate well-known works of art. There's Tiao, a young, charismatic man who's been picking since he was 11, and founded a cooperative to organize the pickers to improve conditions and worker treatment at the dump. Zumbi, Gramacho's resident intellectual, saves every book he finds, with the dream of one day starting a community library. There's Irma, who cooks meals for the pickers using discarded food, and Isis and Suelen, 2 young mothers whose work in the dump has saved them from becoming prostitutes. Muniz projects the photos he's taken onto the floor of a warehouse, then has the pickers gather and arrange recyclables on top of them to create giant portraits for Muniz to photograph. But with the pickers able to spend time away from the dump, the earlier facade of their contentment falls away as they reveal the tragedies that brought them to Gramacho, as well as their dreams of never returning. This leads to a frank and necessary discussion about whether it's right to give the pickers such a tantalizing glimpse of a better life, only to return them to the dump once the project is completed. A discussion that takes on added importance as Muniz contemplates taking Tiao to London to see his portraits sold at auction. But in the end, Muniz's theory about art's ability to change people's lives turns out to be correct. Not just through the substantial amount of money raised through the sale of the art, but more importantly, through the way it changes the way the pickers see themselves. For perhaps the first time, these people who have been pushed to the fringes of society, to the point where they're literally left to live in trash, can feel that they're not invisible. That they can be part of something that, even though they barely understood it at first, has the potential to travel around the world. That their faces and their voices can and are worthy of being seen and heard. And, most importantly, that no matter how dark things may seem, there's always a chance for a better life, even if the route to get there is something they could have never imagined. As Muniz tells the pickers when explaining his project, the moment when one thing turns into another is the most beautiful moment, and that applies to everything. And as impressive as the art created in Wasteland is, the opportunity to watch the lives of the pickers transform into something else is the most beautiful thing of all. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a ReThink Review.